Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is March 13th, 2025. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Today was nice. Felt like I was back in the saddle. There was no bad vibes. Everything was cherry. It was good. It was a good day. Work was a nice mix of just slow and not much work. That was cool. We got to kick it with maintenance. That was also that was cool. Had some talks as we like to do. Let's see. After that, we went to the gym. Gym went well. Didn't have the cloudy mind, wasn't distracted, so I felt very locked in. I even had a really cool moment where I was going to rack up the leg press, put my weights on it or whatever, and a guy who's a regular sees me and he just proceeds to help. Like no prompt, no nothing. He's like, "I got you," and I was like, thank you so much. And I don't know, I'm gonna treasure that moment for a while. That was much appreciated, very cool. Because that's a person I never talked to. I'm very shy at the gym. I think there are two people that I actually interact with outside of maybe one staff member, and those two people, one I work with and one I'm friends with. So like that's about it. Otherwise, I keep to myself and I go, man, it'd be cool to talk to that person. It'd be cool to talk to that person, and I just never do it. But overall, the gym session went well. I finally tried some cable exercises for the first time. I felt like a dork. I felt like a huge idiot. I felt like I was hopping out of a clown car and doing this shit. But it was good. It was solid. Hopefully, I get a chance to try more. I'm sure I'll take some opportunities too. But yeah, it was good to just be back and locked in. Felt very nice. Let's see. Let's talk food corner because we did switch it up. We brought back soup night. Soup night is not over. We're doing chicken and rice all the time, but I still felt that it's good to have that like extra cut day, and I think it's definitely worth doing. I think the proof's in the pudding on that. I will say though, one last thing, and this is why this is recording is probably hitting you on a Friday, not anywhere close to a Thursday. Mea culpa. I came home and took the fattest nap. I just had to. And the thing is, I didn't get much sleep last night. I woke up around 4, so I mean I got 4 hours. But something that's worth noting, I'm sure I've mentioned it maybe at least once or twice, but ever since I really started hitting the gym and working out, I've noticed that like I sleep a little better. Maybe it's just because like I'm more exhausted, so my body has to take the time, and it won't like, oh, okay, let's not get moody and wake up at 3 or for whatever reason. I tend to stay down a little bit longer, and even when I'm waking up early, it's only like maybe an hour or so before my alarm's usually going off. So I like that. I don't know if that's a pro tip or not, but it's something that's definitely been a nice change for me to actually lay down and stay asleep for a good amount of time. But that being said, didn't really work out this morning. I woke up, too early, and I was like, whatever, it is what it is. Played on my phone, watched some Twitch TV. It was all good, but I was so tired throughout the day. And by the time I got home, I was like running on my second energy drink. And I was like, if I sally forth and keep moving, I know I'm going to be too tired anyway. And it's probably going to affect the episode in a way I don't like. So let's just get some rest. Let's just take a little nappy poo. Oh, also, another thing worth noting, actually, I know I'm making this little blog spot a little longer. Last night and tonight, I know at least in America, you can see a blood moon. There was like a lunar eclipse that has been taking place over the past 24 hours or so. I woke up this morning and was on my way to work, and I saw it, and I couldn't help but be like, the moon. I'm a big moon enjoyer, y'all. So actually, not just today, but tonight, it wasn't so much the eclipse mode or whatever. It wasn't the blood moon over here, but it was just a big bright moon. So I took some time, a little few minutes just to sit on my little patio and enjoy that too. That was kind of nice. Do a little moon bathing, if you will. Anyway, Enough talking about my life, enough yapping it out. Let's go ahead and do our startup and get into some news. We have a lot to cover today. It's a stack docket. I'll try to mosey through as quick as I can without making too many mistakes. You know how it goes over here. All right. First story comes from the Associated Press. Putin agrees in principle with proposal for Ukraine ceasefire and says more discussions are needed. Russian President Vladimir Putin said Thursday that he agrees in principle with the U.S. proposal for a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine, but he emphasized that the terms are yet to be worked out and added that any truce should pave the way to lasting peace. The idea itself is correct, and we certainly support it, Putin told a news conference in Moscow. But there are issues that we need to discuss, and I think we need to talk about it with our American colleagues and partners, and perhaps have a call with President Trump and discuss it with him. President Donald Trump said there have been good signals coming out of Russia and offered guarded optimism about Putin's statement. He reiterated that he's ready to speak with Putin and underscored that it was time to end the war. Now, that being said, it's kind of been a bit of a mixed message from, any of the, people below Putin that are, in the talks that are involved. So, I mean, we really don't know how concrete this is yet. It seems very hinged on what Putin and Trump are going to talk about, and then what Russia is willing to capitulate on, which so far has really not been much, and potentially what Russia wants, So I think that that's going to be very relevant in, times to come in the near future. But another part of this article that I wanted to cover, the diplomatic effort coincided with a Russian claim that its troops have driven the Ukrainian army out of a key town in Russia's Kursk border region, where Moscow has been trying for 7 months to dislodge Ukrainian troops from their foothold. Now, I know we haven't talked too much about, any frontline stuff in terms of Ukraine. I know we did recently kind of mention a little offhand, like some missile strikes from Russia to Ukraine. I think there might have been some return fire there. I don't know yet. But in terms of the Kursk region, it's seemingly been bad for Ukraine. They've been fighting this fight, but it's definitely gotten to the point where they're more or less surrounded. And I believe the town of Sudza in Kursk has been taking over. That's a really key town. So it's definitely seeming like a bad turning point for Ukraine in this regard. They took this area to kind of distract or at least pull troops away from the main front, and then also potentially have a bargaining chip when we came to peace talks. But it's seemingly right as we get to the door of this that's getting a bit shut out. And it's also something that, I think Putin mentioned in some kind of, talks or whatever, where he's like, hey, what are they going to do in this situation? Like, are Ukrainian top brass going to be able to tell the soldiers there to stand down and stop? I think it definitely kind of does give the vibes of the Azov Steel Battalion thing or whatever. Another story event we covered in this whole conflict war situation. So I can understand that that's a relevant talking point, I guess. But it also seems like Russia's just playing fucking coy here. You know what I mean? They could easily just be like, oh yeah, this deal sounds fine. We want to wrap this shit up. We've made our gains and we're good. But I think that they know their position is very strong. They know that in Donald Trump they have like the perfect yes man. So they might as well try to flex this for as much as they can get, right? I think that's the logic from Putin. That's the logic from the fucking Kremlin. So that's probably where they're angling this at, and we'll see. In some regards, the Trump admin has said, hey, if they're not willing to play ball, we will sanction them. We will do something. But I don't know about y'all, but that feels very empty. It feels very hollow. Like, he just seems so chummy with Putin. It seems like the rapport is better than ever. So it almost seems like there's no way he would. And I mean, I've said this before. I don't think sanctions are usually an effective move anyway. You've sanctioned Russia. You've sanctioned plenty of countries. And what good has that really done? You know what I mean? Oh, they don't have a McDonald's anymore. Okay, they're still operational. They're still, on a wartime footing economy or whatever, and they're still making it work. Obviously it's affecting them. You're hurting them, but you're not doing it in a way that's ending this war. So, or even giving Ukraine an advantage there. So I felt those two things were important. I wanted to start with that. Moving on, a good chunk of this episode, this is more or less a protest edition. So I wanted to kind of cover some protest activity that has been going on. Felt very relevant to me. A little bit of updates too. So, and a little bit, we're going to do a touch of plain news at the end. So yeah, bear with me. Keep up with me. Let's go ahead and move along. Our next story comes from Reuters. Protesters occupied Trump Tower following arrest of Columbia student. Scores of people poured into the lobby of Trump Tower in New York City on Thursday to protest the arrest and detention of Columbia University student Mahmoud Khalil, whom the Trump administration aims to deport over his pro-Palestinian activism. The arrest of Khalil, who is in immigration custody in Louisiana after his arrest in New York on Saturday, has sparked an outcry by Democratic lawmakers, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories, and civil liberty advocates, among others. Jewish Voice for Peace, which describes itself as a progressive Jewish anti-Zionist organization, carried out Thursday's demonstration. The group said it was taking over the Trump Tower to register our mass refusal. We will not stand by as this fascist regime attempts to criminalize Palestinians and all those calling for an end to the Israeli government's U.S.-funded genocide of Palestinian people, the group said in a post on X. Trump Tower, located on Manhattan's Fifth Avenue, is home to the Trump Organization and where President Donald Trump and the First Lady Melania Trump own a penthouse apartment. Their son, Barron, has been living there since beginning his freshman year at New York University in the fall. At least 150 protesters gathered at Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, the New York Police Department estimated. Images on social media show demonstrators carrying signs saying, "Fight Nazis, not students," and "Free Mahmoud, free Palestine." Video showed some police arresting some of the protesters. The NYPD said 98 arrests were made. Now, I woke up after my little nappy poo, and I saw that Noah Cohen, one of the hosts of Blowback, which is a really good podcast, I very much suggest. If you like any of the things I'm doing, they're doing it much better than I am in terms of just like coverage, especially from like historical perspectives and moments in history and time, yada. But very cool dude. I was like, oh my God, like, one, he's getting arrested. That's crazy. Two, he's out there protesting. That's awesome. So, it's a shame that this heavy reaction is being doled out. I don't know in terms of kind of like how the Trump administration is handling the campus encampment protests and things like that, if they're really going to try to like mark this shit up as terrorism. I mean, shit, I was seeing stories and articles about Trump saying like, hey, if you vandalize a Tesla, we're going to treat that as a domestic terrorist thing. So, I mean, they really are ratcheting it up. Like, I'm not, blowing smoke when I say these things, especially when we were talking about the Mahmoud Khalil shit initially. They are trying to instill this chilling effect that scares you from going out and talking bad about whatever the fuck the government wants to do, whatever the fuck the government wants to support or suppress. They want you to just be okay with it and lie down and just fucking take it. So I'm happy to see people actually out there actually saying fucking something. I mean, shit, I've lost friends having these kind of conversations about like people who are like saying, hey, we're Jewish, we're not with this shit, we are very anti fucking Zionism, and this shit has to stop. This should have never even gotten to this fucking point. And, I think these voices really do matter. They really are fucking important. So yeah, I mean, it's good to just see everyone out in so many ways. It's a shame that it's being met with such hostility, from police and things of that nature. But I mean, it is what it is. I'm just once again happy to see people out and fighting for this shit. I do know that they are trying to, or like the trial and stuff, like the whole legal procedure is going on for Khalil right now, though he isn't able to even like, initially be there because he's in Louisiana being detained. There's a whole jurisdiction thing and thing of that nature. So we'll definitely be coming back to talk about, him specifically. But yeah, there's more. Oops, sorry. I definitely just clubbed the mic. I'm so sorry. This is backhanded my Yeti. Anyway, let's move on though. This is still, very much related. From NBC News, Columbia disciplines students for protests as activists seek to block school from sharing records. Columbia University graduate Mahmoud Khalil and 7 current students sued the school Thursday in a bid to block it from producing disciplinary records to a House committee, as school officials said they were sanctioning students involved in pro-Palestinian rallies last spring. Khalil, a green card holder and Palestinian activist who played a major role in student protests against the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza, was arrested over the weekend and is being held in Louisiana Detention Center as immigration authorities seek to deport him. The suit filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York alleges the committee's request for the records violates the First Amendment and that the university's compliance with the committee constitutes a breach of contract. Columbia officials declined to comment on the pending litigation. Just as the suit was filed, the university announced multi-year suspensions, temporary degree revocations, and expulsions for those who participated in the occupation of Hamilton Hall at the school's New York City campus. Now, I believe that was one that was really highlighted because I think that showed, like, kind of quote unquote the most violent acts that were taking place on campus that were involved in these encampments. And I think that that's just being highlighted to be like, hey, you guys actually were doing like violence. You were being, chaotic, disruptive, and it's not okay. And for these reasons, you should, be kicked out. You should be expelled. I personally, obviously, the views on this fucking podcast where I'm sitting, where I'm, where I'm at in my armchair, I disagree with that. I think that's fucked up. I can understand, some kind of reprimand or saying, hey, it shouldn't have gotten to this level. Okay, whatever. But like saying, hey, your whole school career, done. You're cooked. Like, nah, man, you gonna give me my fucking money back then? No, the fuck they're not. So, once again, this is clearly them saying, hey, we are siding with the government on this. And I really have to say flat out the government on this, because at the end of the day, and should I even just say that? Because it really just seems like they're siding with Israel here, because their interests are intermingled here. They literally have backers here. And it's like, hey, if you disrupt them, that was already talked about, where it's like, hey, we should start pulling our money. We should stop investing in Columbia because they're supporting this terrorist anti-Semitic activity. Like, you clearly you've picked a side, and it's not with your students, or at least the students that are out there saying, hey, this isn't right. We're not okay with this, and we're going to sit out here. We're going to, protest and, until we get some change, at least out of this campus, in terms of you guys divesting, things of that nature. So yeah, I definitely think it's relevant to mention the fact that they are taking it to this level, and they are in lockstep with, once again, not just the Biden administration, but now the Trump administration and what they want. And they can always use the excuse, well, Trump said, hey, that he's put out this executive order. They're going to pull funding for anyone who supports that. But shit, you guys are already on the line for that. The least you could do now at this point is support, the fucking students and some of the faculty members that actually stood up and actually participated in the protest with the students. But once again, it seems like the university does not care about that. They do not want to support this. In fact, they want to distance themselves as much of this as possible and suppress this activity in the future. So, that's obviously a fucking bummer. Boo, tomato, tomato, tomato to that. But yeah, we got to keep it in New York. We're going to keep talking about some protests. This is an update about the prison strike, the Wildcat prison strike. They kept calling it that. They keep calling it that. Once again, I still think that's interesting. Like Wildcat offense. But anyway. NBC 5. Actually, let me take a little bev break. I'm a little parched. Shout out to Arizona, the Mucho Mango. That was bad ASMR. If you heard that ping, my bad. But yeah, from NBC5, New York Governor Kathy Hochul signs executive order banning striking corrections officers from state jobs. Man, I love to see a Democrat governor queen, a girl boss, just do some blacklisting. Oh, I love blue McCarthyism. That's fucking sick. It's fucking dope, dude. My president does it. You got your New York fucking governor doing it. Fucking hell yeah. Man, I always wonder what that would feel like, what that would look like in modern times. Sick. New York Governor Kathy Hochul has responded to end the Wildcat Row corrections officer strike by banning protesters from being hired for state positions. Hochul signed an executive order Monday that bars the hiring of individuals who continue to participate in strike actions from being hired for state jobs. She said she would also recommend that those striking officers be removed from the Central Registry of Police and Peace Officers, which would prevent them from being hired as police and peace officers in state and local jurisdictions. These are consequences when people break the law, and that means you're not working in our state workforce ever, Hochul told reporters Tuesday. There was no immediate comment from the union. The strike roiled a state prison system that advocates said was already beset by problems, including overworked staff and failure to consistently provide incarcerated people with services and medical care. Jennifer Scale, executive director of the Correctional Association of New York, an independent monitoring group, said she believed the system was teetering on the edge even before the strike. I think that many of the pre-existing conditions are still there, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done to address those. Now, I want to add here, before I get too far ahead, that overall, and y'all know how I am when it comes to these things, I'm pro-union, I'm supporting that shit. Obviously, we're talking about, like, corrections officers and shit, so there's a bit of PU there. But especially when we get into some of the details about some of the things they want, obviously, I support them having better hours, better pay, their safety, all that bullshit. Of course, we're with that. There are other things that are not, coming to mind, but we discussed them when we initially talked about this, that are not so great. And they seem very anti the actual inmates that you're supposed to be, looking after, taking care of, whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like you're being so greedy here that you're like, hey, we need to use our union powers to, like, kind of do them a little dirty. Obviously, I'm not for that. I'm boo that. But that being said, I think it's a shame that there's such a crackdown from literally on top, like, where they're like saying, hey, you can't do the strike. You just can't. So if you do it, we will put legal action against you. We will more or less bar you from your job that you have. I think that's fucked up. I think that it doesn't matter what position you're in, no matter what job, whether you're a fucking cog in the goddamn machine or not, that's fucked up. That's not a fucking K. You know what I mean? So you're literally busting through what the union is and saying, hey, well, this is just law, baby. You have to come to work. And if you don't come to work, you lose your job and you never get to work in this fucking, this industry ever again, essentially. I mean, if you took, the corrections officer and you said you were an actor or some kind of artist or whatever, it's the same energy. It's the same vibe to me. Let me read a little further. Daniel Martuscello, the third, Commissioner of the New York Department of Corrections and Community Services, announced that the strike was officially over Monday, despite the DOCCS not meeting the threshold of 85% of the striking workers returning to the job by that morning. He also announced that more than 2,000 striking workers were terminated that morning after they failed to adhere to the return to work deadline. Also, this is giving Biden vibes again. I remember if it was a year or two ago, one of the two, where they had the train strike and he forced them to come back to work. He was like, well, it's a holiday fucking weekend. Get your asses back in. We're not having that. I'm not having that. Motherfucker, you still led a losing battle, so you should have just let that strike happen if you were actually so fucking progressive. But yet again, these motherfuckers always like to cloak themselves in that shit and then just discard it the second that they see, any kind of pressure, any kind of thing that's gonna, like, upset a bottom line for them. They refuse to actually capitulate to the fucking people. No surprise there. It doesn't matter whether you're a fucking conservative or a liberal, doesn't matter. They all walk and move the goddamn same on this shit, and I fucking hate it. The unsanctioned strike came to an end after 22 days and 4 negotiations aimed at getting striking and protesting corrections officers statewide to return to their posts within the state's corrections facilities. Now, they do talk about just some of the negative impacts that happened while the strike was going on. There have been 7 deaths of incarcerated people during the strike. That includes the death of Messiah Nantwi at Mid-State Correction Facility in Marcy on March 1st, which is being investigated by a special prosecutor. A court filing by the Attorney General's office said there is probable cause to believe that as many as 9 corrections officers either caused or could be implicated in his death. It's like, okay, well, damn, that's no good. They fucked up on that, if true, right? 6 guards were charged with murder last month in the December death of Robert Brooks, who was incarcerated at Marcy Correctional Facility or across the street from Mid-State Prison. The strike came as Hochul seeks authority in the upcoming state budget to close up 5 prisons to make the system more cost-effective and efficient. Okay, so yeah, that was a big update that I was kind of dragging on, so I figured, hey, let's go ahead and just throw that in here to the protest milieu. But we're not done. Let's go get some coffee from the Chicago Tribune. Starbucks workers' supporters arrested in protest for union contract. Nearly 3 years after the first Starbucks baristas in Chicago unionized, 11 workers and supporters were arrested by Chicago police after staging a sit-in inside one of the first union Starbucks cafes in the city on Tuesday. Starbucks workers said they wanted to put pressure on the Seattle-based coffee giant to finalize a contract with the union on the eve of the company's annual shareholder meeting scheduled Wednesday. The Baristas Union, Starbucks Workers United, now represents about 11,000 workers at more than 500 stores across the country. But more than 3 years after the first Starbucks baristas unionized in Buffalo, New York, the coffee workers have yet to reach a first collective bargaining agreement with the company. And that's because the company is playing very loose. They're playing very coy with the union. They are letting talks go along, and then they pull the fuck out. And then when there's more pressure exerted on them, they go, "Oh, why are you guys doing this? Oh, you guys are being so unreasonable. And we keep trying to talk to you guys, and this is all you guys want to do." But then when you were actually at the table, you're not giving them what they want at all. And then in this situation, you're calling the fucking police on them. So, I mean, maybe I have to slap an allegedly on there, but whatever, fuck. Like, no, there's nothing on the level about this from Starbucks. They are trying to allow this to happen, but then also block it at every single point that they can. So obviously fucking boo Starbucks. And if you are a person who was trying to get their coffee there that day and you're fucking butthurt that there were people in the way and it was so hard and I couldn't get my caramel frap. Well, too fucking bad, dude. You could go home, make it your fucking self. You go to fucking Dunkin' Donuts or whatever the fuck. Like, if this inconvenienced you, oh, too damn bad. You should be more worried about people who are not making a living wage, who are not getting what they actually deserve out of the company that they are putting their blood and sweat into. They're putting all their fucking time and energy into. Like, just be normal, be rational for a goddamn second. If that's an actual beef in your mind. Like, oh, I can't believe they're going about it this way. There isn't another way to go about it. If you just sit on your goddamn laurels, they play you like a fucking clown every time, dude. So I was, happy to see people, come out and really put it out on the line because, I mean, it seems like that's all you really can do these days, man. You know what I mean? Let's read a little bit further. On Tuesday, workers at the Edgewater store went on strike along with baristas at stores in 5 other cities, including New York, Seattle, and Pittsburgh. According to the union, 5 people were arrested in Pittsburgh, the union said. Workers at the union represented 5964 North Ridge Avenue packed the cafe with supporters before calling a strike Tuesday, walking out of the Edgewater store and picketing outside. So, there's more details there, but I just really wanted to highlight this and, really just, clap it up for the people who really put it out on the line. It's crazy that you're getting arrested for this kind of shit. And that this is what we're using our police tax dollars on. I love that. That's so cool. That's so fucking great and useful and productive. So many lives were saved. Awesome. But, no, for real though, shout out to unions, man. They're the only motherfuckers who are actually, making this shit actually move for the people who are working every day. The real fucking blue class or blue collar, insert yourself here. If you are doing a job for fucking money the only way you're usually making more is because a union's fighting for them to make more, and it's the only thing that seems to kind of up the shit. It really actually raises the tide, floats the boats, if you will. But anyway, we have made it through our protest talk, so we're good now. We can put down our loudspeakers, and we gotta take to the skies. Like I said, we gotta talk about some plane talk, and you know how that goes. I wish I was saying something cool and sweet here, but no, not so much. Granted, hey, no, seemingly no loss of life. Spoilers a bit there, but before we get too deep, let's go ahead and take our last break, and we will close it out. Ooh, yeah. All right, pulling this from Fox 31, Colorado CW2. I don't know. I just read the whole thing. 178 people. Excuse me. Sorry. 178 people evacuated from American Airlines plane due to fire at Denver International Airport. Passengers were evacuated Thursday evening from an American Airlines flight after a fire was reported. According to the Denver International Airport, there was an aircraft fire to an American Airlines plane that was sitting at gate C38 on Thursday evening, producing visible smoke. Passengers were evacuated and the slides were deployed, the airport said. The airport said the fire was extinguished and no injuries have been reported as of 6:15 p.m. There's an American Airlines statement there, but we don't really need to read that. Obviously, this is one of those breaking news stories, so there's not much else to really report, at least as of now, as of this recording. But, hey, I had to get some plane talk in, since it was there. It was up in the air. Glad, though, that no one was hurt. The plane was able to land and do all that, and then there's a fire. Oh my gosh! But everyone was able to get evacuated. So I chalk this up to good news. It's crazy times up in the air. But hey, we move, we fly. We got to make it to our destinations. No. But yeah, that'll be the episode for the day. It feels like a good place to love it and leave it. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Isaiah News. Become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube, follow me on TikTok, follow on Spotify. Those are always good ways to keep up, really help out the effort for free. Leave a like, leave a comment. Sharing is caring. Always appreciate that. It's very lovely when you do. But yes, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.